Robert, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
I understand that there's been a document release from the George Herbert Walker Bush Library, and that among those documents you have found some interesting nuggets.
Right. The Bush Library in College Station, Texas, released 4,800 documents, or provided 4,800 documents. Some were not still released because of classification purposes. But I went down and spent a couple of days with them, and what they showed was sort of the framework for what had been a cover-up of what was known as the October Surprise Scandal. In 1980, there were allegations that Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush took part in efforts to obstruct President Carter's efforts to free 52 Americans who were then held hostage in Iran. That failure on Carter's part to get the hostages out was a big factor in Reagan's landslide victory in 1980. As the Iran-Contra scandal began to break in the mid-'80s, those of us who were covering it, I was at AP and then Newsweek at the time, we kept going back and finding that the arms sales did not begin in 85 and 86 as most people thought. They actually had begun in 1981. So we went back and investigated further and further. It became clear that there were witnesses coming forward who were saying, well, that's because the Reagan-Bush campaign in 1980 had made these contacts with Iran back then. There was an investigation that was held in 1991 and 92 that in Congress that led to essentially them clearing the Reagan-Bush campaign. However, it was not really an investigation. It was much more of a cover-up. What these documents down in Texas now show is how the White House, how the Bush White House, coordinated with the Republicans on Capitol Hill to make sure this investigation didn't reach any conclusions that hurt them. In other words, they tried to make sure that the American people did not get the truth about what happened in 1980.
So is there now documented evidence that you found in the Bush Library that in 1980 the Reagan campaign conspired with the Iranians to hold the hostages up to and through the elections so that Jimmy Carter would lose?
Well, there was still no smoking gun in those documents. They say about a quarter were still being withheld for national security and other reasons. But there was a document that came forward that showed that, according to the State Department, which informed the White House back in 1991, that William Casey, who had been the director of the Reagan campaign, later became CIA director, that he had taken a trip to Madrid, and the embassy wasn't sure exactly why. But whether or not Casey had gone to Madrid was a key factor in the whole investigation back then. There were very influential stories written in Newsweek and the New Republic in November of 91, about the same time that this information was passed on to the White House, that Casey had not gone to Madrid. And that became the center of the debunking of this whole thing.
Now, the whole point of his...
The White House had information from the State Department that Casey had. And it also turned out that the Newsweek and New Republic alibi for Casey, they placed him in London, that alibi collapsed. So there remains very strong evidence based on other witnesses who've come forward that indeed Casey and Reagan and Bush took part in this effort to obstruct the hostage release.
Amazing. And in fact, the significance of that meeting in Madrid is what? Why would it matter if Bill Casey went to Madrid?
According to one of the witnesses who'd come forward and given testimony, Jamshid Hashemi, who was an Iranian businessman who'd been recruited by the CIA during that time frame, he said that he had helped set up a meeting for Casey with Ayatollah Karoubi, who was then a key figure in Ayatollah Khomeini's government. It appeared that the evidence seemed to indicate that he had, that meeting had taken place. But because Hashemi's allegation was then discredited by this false alibi that Newsweek and New Republic used, and because the White House did not come forward with the information it had, that Casey indeed had made such a trip, that was allowed to really color the whole investigation. Once the Hashemi claim was knocked down, even though it was knocked down falsely, that set the stage for the rest of it, that everyone said basically, ha, 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 this didn't happen, it's a conspiracy theory. But there was always strong evidence based on testimony from about almost now 24 people who were part of this thing, that indeed there were these contacts between the Republicans and the Iranians back in 1980 during the campaign when they had no legal authority to do so. This is when President Carter was still in office. He was trying to get one result, i.e. free the hostages. They were trying to prevent it.
Wow. So this kind of then this would fall into the same category as Lyndon Johnson, quite literally, I could play the clip for you, said to Everett Dirksen, "This is treason, Ev." This falls into that category.
Right. One could argue that what happened in '68 was even worse. I mean, you had 500,000 American soldiers in harm's way at that point. Right. Johnson had a peace deal. He was much closer to a peace deal than many of us thought, even more recently. It's now clear he was on the verge of getting the war over by '68. It was Nixon's dealings with Saigon to get them to sabotage the peace talks in Paris that cleared the way for Nixon to eke out a victory, but it also continued the war for 4 more years, and some 20-some thousand American soldiers died. Now, this was essentially repeated in 1980, it now appears, with some of the same characters working for the Republicans who felt, well, we got away with it in '68. We can do something similar in 1980. We can sabotage a sitting Democratic president. And that seems to have worked. Wow. So where does this go? Robert, you uncovered these documents. We just have a couple seconds left. Any follow-through in the corporate media? Can we push this? How do we elevate this? Well, it's hard to say what the mainstream media will do with any of these things. It sort of kissed them all goodbye in '68 as well. It will not go back and deal with that again, it seems like. But I do think there are documents we're still fighting for. Yeah. I've appealed some of these declassifications that have been denied. Well, I wish you well on that, and please keep us apprised of your ongoing efforts. Thanks, Tom. Robert Parry, independent investigative journalist, founder and editor of Consortium News, consortiumnews.com. Consortium News is the Twitter. Robert, thanks. We will follow this story.